The television glowed blue in the darkened room, and Muhammad Ali watched the ghost. Not his own ghost, though that specter had visited him often enough in recent years. No, this ghost was younger, faster, more terrifying. This ghost wore black trunks and no socks, and moved through opponents like a force of nature that had somehow learned to make fists. This ghost was named Mike Tyson, and he was doing to boxing what Ali had done 2 decades earlier. Destroying it. Remaking it. Making everyone else look like they were standing still. It was the late 1980s, and Ali sat alone in the living room of his Los Angeles home, the only light coming from the screen where Tyson was systematically taking apart another challenger. The fight would not last long. Tyson's fights rarely did. 91 seconds, perhaps. Maybe 2 minutes if the other man was exceptionally brave or exceptionally foolish. Ali's hands rested in his lap, trembling slightly. Parkinson's disease had been his unwanted companion for several years now, slowing the reflexes that had once been the fastest in boxing, thickening the speech that had once danced like his feet. He was 46 years old, maybe 47, and the ring was a country he could no longer visit except through screens like this one. So he watched, and remembered, and wondered. Imagine yourself in that room. The soft hum of the television, the darkness pressing in from the corners, the smell of a house settling into evening, and in the center of it all, the most famous athlete of the 20th century, alone with images of a young man who was rewriting the record books he had once owned. The announcer's voice cut through the silence, breathless with excitement. "Tyson with another devastating combination! His opponent is hurt! This could be it!" Ali leaned forward slightly, his eyes tracking Tyson's movement with the analytical precision that had never left him, even as his body failed. He saw things that casual viewers could not see. The slight dip of Tyson's shoulder before the left hook. The way he cut off the ring, herding his opponent into corners like a wolf isolating prey from the herd. The absolute confidence in every step, every punch, every breath. He knew that confidence. He had invented that confidence, or at least perfected it. But watching Tyson, he saw something different. Something darker. Something that reminded him less of his own career and more of the men he had fought against. Tyson did not dance. Tyson did not float. Tyson came forward like a natural disaster, inevitable and merciless. And when he hit you, the lights went out. There was no poetry in his violence, no beauty in his destruction. There was only efficiency, only devastation, only the cold mathematics of pain. Close your eyes and hear the sounds of that television. The thud of leather against flesh. The roar of the crowd, compressed and tinny through the speakers. The announcer's voice rising toward hysteria as another man fell to the canvas. "It's over! It's over! Tyson wins by knockout in the first round!" The screen filled with images of celebration. Tyson's corner rushing into the ring, the fallen opponent being attended to by doctors, the referee raising Tyson's gloved fist toward the ceiling. And through it all, that face, young and fierce and somehow empty, as if the victory meant nothing, as if nothing could ever mean enough. Ali watched the replay of the knockout punch, then watched it again. The television obliged, showing the moment from multiple angles, slowing it down until the violence became almost beautiful, almost abstract. A fist traveling through space, a jaw receiving it, a body crumpling like paper in a fire. He had thrown punches like that. He had received punches like that. He knew the sound they made when they landed, the feeling of delivering that kind of power, the strange silence that follows when a man realizes he has just been transported to somewhere outside of consciousness. But he had also known something else. He had known joy in the ring. He had known performance and poetry, and the strange intimacy of two men trying to destroy each other while also, in some way, creating something together. When Ali fought, he was always talking, always moving, always performing for the crowd and the cameras and some audience only he could see. Tyson did not talk in the ring. Tyson did not perform. Tyson worked, with the grim efficiency of a man who had learned violence as a survival skill long before it became a profession. Let your breathing slow as you consider the difference. Two champions, two eras, two ways of being the best in the world at hurting people. Ali had made destruction look like dance. Tyson made it look like what it was. According to those who knew Ali during this period, he watched Tyson's fights often. Not always alone, sometimes with friends or family, sometimes with other boxing people who wanted to discuss what they were seeing. But often, like tonight, he watched by himself, in the darkness, having conversations in his head that no one else could hear. What did he think about, watching this young champion who had taken his place at the top of the heavyweight division? The question has no certain answer. Ali's inner life during these years remains largely private, protected by his own declining ability to communicate and by the discretion of those who loved him. But we can imagine. We can picture him in that dark room, watching Tyson demolish another opponent, and we can ask the questions he might have asked himself. Did he see himself in Tyson? Perhaps, in certain moments. The young Ali had also been fearless, had also walked through opponents who were supposed to destroy him. But Ali had always seemed to be enjoying himself, even in the hardest fights. Tyson seemed to find no joy in anything, only relief when it was over. Did he feel replaced? Perhaps that, too. For 20 years, Ali had been boxing. Even after his retirement, even after the disease began its slow theft of his abilities, he had remained the face of the sport, the standard against which all others were measured. Now there was Tyson, and suddenly the conversation had shifted. Suddenly people were asking not, is he as good as Ali, but, is he better? Picture Ali's face in the television's blue glow. The features that had once been so mobile, so expressive, now settled into the mask that Parkinson's creates. But the eyes were still Ali's eyes, still watching, still calculating, still seeing things that others missed. The post-fight interview began. Tyson stood before the cameras, sweat gleaming on his skin, his voice high and soft in that strange way that never quite matched his devastating power. He spoke about his trainer, Cus D'Amato, who had died a few years earlier. He spoke about his desire to be the best ever. He spoke about wanting to fight anyone, anywhere, anytime. Ali recognized those words. He had said similar things, decades ago, when he was the one standing in the spotlight, when he was the one making the world pay attention. But there was a difference. When Ali had made those declarations, they had come with a smile, with a wink, with the understanding that the boasting was part performance, part prophecy. Tyson's words came flat and serious, as if he could not imagine any other way to say them. "I want to be the greatest of all time," Tyson said on the screen. "I want to be remembered forever." Ali shifted slightly in his chair. His hand moved toward the remote control, then stopped. He continued watching, even though the fight was over, even though the talking heads were now filling airtime with analysis and speculation. Breathe with him in that dark room. Feel the weight of legacy pressing down. He had been the greatest. He had said so himself, thousands of times, until the whole world believed it. But time moves forward, and new champions rise, and the records that seemed unbreakable begin to break. Would Tyson surpass him? In 1988, it seemed not just possible, but likely. Tyson was undefeated. Tyson was destroying everyone. Tyson was being called things like the most dangerous man on the planet and the baddest man alive. The hyperbole that had once belonged to Ali was being transferred to a new owner. But Ali had watched boxing his entire life. He had seen champions rise and fall. He had seen unbeatable fighters beaten, invincible men made vincible. And something in the way Tyson carried himself, something in those flat eyes and that joyless efficiency, made Ali wonder. According to those who discussed boxing with him during this period, Ali had reservations about Tyson that went beyond technical analysis. He worried about the young champion's mental state. He saw a loneliness in Tyson that reminded him of something. Perhaps of the men he had grown up with in Louisville, who had talent but no guidance, power but no purpose. Tyson had lost Cus D'Amato, the trainer who had been like a father to him. He had surrounded himself with people who wanted his money and his fame, but perhaps not his well-being. He was making choices, in his personal life, in his business dealings, in the company he kept, that seemed designed to sabotage the very success he had achieved. Ali recognized those patterns. He had seen them before, in other fighters, in other champions who had risen too fast and fallen too hard. Boxing history was full of cautionary tales, of men who could not handle the weight of being the best in the world. Close your eyes and imagine what Ali might have wanted to say to Tyson, the advice he might have offered, the warnings he might have given. Protect yourself, not just in the ring, but in life. Surround yourself with people who love you, not people who love what you can give them. Find joy in what you do, because without joy, the victories are empty. But communication had become difficult for Ali. The disease made speaking a labor. The words that had once flowed like water now had to be pulled from somewhere deep, each syllable a small victory against the silence that was slowly claiming him. And Tyson was not easy to reach. He was surrounded by handlers and managers and hangers-on, layers of people that separated him from the outside world. The two men had met, briefly, at various boxing events, but they had never truly connected, never had the long conversations that might have made a difference. Perhaps it was too late anyway. Perhaps Tyson's path was already set, the trajectory of his rise and fall already determined by forces that no amount of advice could alter. We make our choices, and then our choices make us, and some stories can only end one way. Let yourself drift into the space between fights, between eras, between two men who shared a title, but perhaps little else. The television continued its endless commentary, experts debating who was greater, comparing statistics and knockouts and reigns. But statistics could not capture what Ali had been. Numbers could not measure the way he had made people feel, the way he had represented something larger than boxing, the way he had become a symbol for millions who had never thrown a punch in their lives. He had been a civil rights figure, a religious convert, a war resistor, a cultural icon. He had appeared on magazine covers and in movies and in the dreams of children on every continent. Tyson was a boxer. A brilliant boxer, perhaps the most efficient destroyer the heavyweight division had ever seen, but just a boxer. Or so it seemed in that moment, watching from the darkness of a living room in Los Angeles. The irony, of course, was that Tyson's fall would come faster than anyone expected. Within a few years, he would lose to Buster Douglas in one of the greatest upsets in sports history. He would go to prison. He would bite off part of Evander Holyfield's ear. He would become a cautionary tale, a symbol of wasted potential, exactly the kind of story that Ali might have wanted to help him avoid. But Ali could not see the future any more than the rest of us. He could only sit in his dark living room, watching a young champion celebrate another victory, wondering what would come next for both of them. Picture the television finally going dark, the blue light fading from the room, the silence rushing in to fill the space where the crowd noise had been. Ali, sitting motionless, his hands still trembling, his thoughts still turning. Lonnie would come to check on him soon. She would help him to bed, as she did every night, with the patient tenderness of someone who had accepted that loving Muhammad Ali meant accepting what he had become as well as what he had been. But for now, he was alone with the darkness and his memories, and the image of a young champion that was already fading from the screen. He thought about his own youth, the speed that had seemed inexhaustible, the confidence that had felt like a gift from somewhere beyond himself, the way the world had opened before him, promising everything, delivering more than everything. He had been beautiful once. He had been fast once. He had been the greatest once. And Tyson was all of those things now, or at least the boxing world believed he was. But Ali knew something that Tyson did not seem to know. He knew that the body fails. He knew that the records fall. He knew that the crown passes from head to head, and the only thing that lasts is what you build outside the ring. Breathe deeply now, and feel the peace that can come with acceptance. Ali had built something outside the ring. He had stood for something larger than himself. He had used his platform to speak about justice and faith and the dignity of all people. Whatever came next for boxing, whatever new champions arose to challenge his legacy, that could not be taken away. Could Tyson say the same? In 1988, the question was still open. Tyson's story was still being written, the final chapters still unknown. There was time for him to become more than a fighter, to use his fame for something beyond the accumulation of knockouts. But watching him celebrate in the aftermath of another victory, watching the emptiness behind his eyes, Ali might have doubted it. He might have seen the road Tyson was walking and recognized where it led. Some men learn from those who came before them. Some men have to make their own mistakes. And some men, perhaps, are beyond learning, their fates sealed by forces that even the greatest cannot overcome. Let yourself drift towards sleep now, as the television screen stays dark and the house settles into silence. The fight is over. The analysis is done. Two champions exist in the same world, one rising and one fallen, both carrying burdens that only they can fully understand. Ali would watch Tyson fight many more times in the years to come. He would see the victories and the defeats. He would see the prison sentence and the comeback, and the final, sad decline. And perhaps, watching it all unfold, he would recognize something he had sensed in that dark living room on that long-ago night. Tyson was a great fighter, one of the greatest the heavyweight division had ever produced. But greatness in the ring does not guarantee greatness outside of it. And the legacy that lasts is not measured in knockouts alone. Sleep now, as Ali finally slept that night, after the television went dark and the house fell silent. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new chances to define what greatness really means. But that is tomorrow. Tonight, there is only rest and memories and the quiet knowledge that the greatest fight is not the one you win in the ring, but the one you fight every day to become the person you were meant to be. The television is dark. The champion is sleeping. And somewhere, in the space between generations, two fighters circle each other in dreams, neither quite able to land the punch that would settle things once and for all. Perhaps that fight will never end. Perhaps it is not meant to. Perhaps the question of who is the greatest can never be answered, because greatness takes too many forms to fit into any single definition. Rest now. The debate continues somewhere, but you do not need to hear it. You only need to know that both men gave everything they had, in their own ways, for their own reasons. And that is enough. That is always enough.